The discovery, the Watchers from Beyond. The Krillian Empire had ruled the eastern spiral arm of the galaxy for over 12,000 cycles. Their crystalline ships moved through space like shards of captured starlight, and their technology had long ago mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. To the Krillians, discovering new species was no longer exciting. It had become routine, predictable, and often disappointing. Commander Zeller stood on the observation deck of the survey vessel Eternal Insight, his 4 optical sensors focused on the blue and green planet rotating slowly below. His skin shimmered with a pale violet hue that indicated mild curiosity among his kind. The third planet in this unremarkable solar system showed signs of primitive intelligent life, and his crew had been observing it for nearly 3 planetary rotations. Commander, the inhabitants are experiencing another mass death event, reported Science Officer Moltes, her sensors dimming with what might have been sympathy. Our scans indicate a bacterial infection spreading through their population centers. Mortality rate is approaching 30% in some regions. Zelther moved closer to the display screen, watching the heat signatures of the creatures below as they burned their dead in massive purrs. This was the 14th cycle of observation, and already he had witnessed the species endure 3 separate catastrophic events. First, there had been the volcanic eruptions that darkened their skies for years. Then came the prolonged drought that turned fertile lands into dust. Now this disease, which the primitive inhabitants called the Great Pestilence. Fascinating, Zelther murmured, his communication tendrils vibrating softly. Most species at this technological level would have fragmented entirely by now. Yet look at them, they adapt, they persist. The creatures below walked on 2 legs, had bilateral symmetry, and possessed remarkable dexterity in their upper limbs. The Krillians had designated them as Species 749b, though their own crude languages contained hundreds of names for themselves. The most common seemed to be humans. Centuries of survival. Emther pulled up the historical data they had collected. Commander, I have compiled the survival record of these humans since we began observation. The results are highly unusual. The display showed a timeline of catastrophes that would have ended most civilizations. Zelther's sensors brightened with genuine interest as he reviewed the data. The humans had survived a period they called the Ice Age, when massive sheets of frozen water covered much of their habitable land. While their population had dropped to dangerously low numbers, they had not gone extinct. Instead, they had developed new tools, new strategies, and new ways of finding food in the harshest conditions. They had endured the super volcanic eruption at a place called Toba, which had reduced their population to perhaps 10,000 individuals. Any other species would have perished. The genetic bottleneck should have doomed them, yet somehow these humans had clawed their way back from the edge of oblivion. They had survived floods, droughts, earthquakes, and tsunamis. They had weathered plagues that killed half their population, only to rebuild their civilization stronger than before. They fought wars among themselves that should have destroyed them completely, yet they always found a way to continue. There is something different about this species, Zelther said quietly. Their biological resilience is remarkable, but that is not the most interesting aspect. It is their psychological resilience. That sets them apart. They refuse to surrender the decision to test. Zellier transmitted his findings to the Krillian High Council on the home world of Caril Prime. The response came within 2 cycles, delivered by High Chancellor Vine herself, whose deep crimson coloring spoke of her advanced age and wisdom. Commander Zeller, your report on Species 749b has been reviewed by the full Council. We have concerns about this species. Their rate of technological advancement is accelerating beyond normal parameters. Our predictive model suggests they will achieve faster than light travel within 800 to 1,000 of their years. Zeller felt his sensors pulse with surprise. That seems highly improbable, Chancellor. They have barely mastered basic metallurgy. Nevertheless, the patterns are clear. Vine continued. We have observed 6,347 species reach the stars in our recorded history. None have shown this particular combination of traits: extreme adaptability, remarkable aggression, balance with cooperation, and almost pathological refusal to accept extinction, and most concerning, and innovative capacity that seems to accelerate under pressure. The High Chancellor paused, her form shimmering with the colors of deep contemplation. The Council has authorized a long-term observation and stress testing protocol. We must determine whether these humans represent a potential threat to galactic stability or a potential asset to the civilized galaxy. Zelder understood immediately. The Krillian Empire had not maintained its dominance for 12,000 cycles by being careless. Every species that reached the stars changed the balance of power in some way. It was better to understand potential rivals before they became actual problems. What are your orders, Chancellor? Continue observation, document everything, and when they reach certain technological thresholds, we are authorized to introduce controlled challenges. Nothing that will destroy them completely, but enough to test their limits. We need to understand what these humans are truly capable of before they leave their world. The hidden hand. Over the following centuries, the Krillians watched and occasionally intervened. They were subtle, careful never to reveal their presence. A slight deflection of an asteroid here, a minor manipulation of solar radiation there. Nothing that would be detected by the primitive sensors the humans possessed, but enough to create challenges. When the humans developed their first nuclear weapons, the Krillians observed with horror and fascination as the species brought themselves to the brink of total annihilation. The confrontation between 2 major human factions, which the humans called the Cold War, should have ended in mutual destruction. The Krillians calculated an 87% probability of nuclear exchange, yet somehow the humans stepped back from the edge. They negotiated, they compromised, they chose survival over victory. This was not typical behavior for a species with such aggressive tendencies. They are learning, Maltese observed. Each crisis teaches them something new. The Krillians introduced a climate stress test, subtly manipulating ocean currents and atmospheric conditions to accelerate the warming of the human planet. They predicted widespread famine, resource wars, and societal collapse. Instead, the humans developed new technologies. They created alternative energy sources. They began to cooperate across their artificial boundaries. The process was messy, chaotic, and inefficient by Krillian standards, but it was effective. They are like a metal being, forged in fire, Zelter said, watching. The data streams, every hammer blow, makes them stronger, the unexpected acceleration. By the year 2089 in human reckoning, something unexpected happened. The humans achieved sustainable fusion power decades ahead of Krillian predictions. Their space program, which had stagnated for nearly a century, suddenly exploded with new energy and ambition. Commander Zelther, now an aged observer who had spent his entire career watching the single species, felt his sensors blazing with alarm as he reviewed the latest intelligence. They have established permanent colonies on their moon and on the fourth planet, which they call Mars. Maltese reported she had also devoted her life to this study, fascinated by the stubborn species below. They are constructing massive orbital platforms, and Commander, their theoretical physics has made a breakthrough. They are working on faster than light propulsion. Zelther immediately contacted Carewell Prime. High Chancellor Species 749b is advancing far more rapidly than projected. They may achieve interstellar capability within 50 of their years. We need guidance, the new High Chancellor Drays responded with colors of concern. This is highly problematic. We are not prepared for their arrival in the wider galaxy. Initiate the final stress test. The asteroid protocol. If they can survive and overcome this challenge, we will have our answer about their capabilities. If they cannot, then the problem solves itself. Zelther felt an unusual sensation, something the Krillians rarely experienced. It took him a moment to identify it as reluctance. He had watched these humans for so long, seen them overcome so much. The idea of potentially destroying them felt wrong, but orders were orders. The Krillian Empire had not survived for 12,000 cycles by being sentimental. Understood. Chancellor initiating asteroid deflection, target Earth. Estimated time to impact 18 months in human time measurement. As Zelther gave the command, he wondered if he had just sentenced an entire species to extinction, or if he was about to witness the most remarkable demonstration of human resilience yet. The countdown had begun. The trials in triumph. The final test begins. The asteroid designated as 2147 Omega was massive, approximately 8 km in diameter, composed primarily of iron and nickel. The Krillians had carefully selected it from the distant reaches of the human solar system and given it a gentle nudge, altering its trajectory with mathematical precision. In 18 months, it would collide with Earth at a velocity of 20 km/s, releasing energy equivalent to several billion nuclear weapons. Commander Zelther watched the data streams with mixed emotions. The object was now on an irreversible course. The humans would detect it within weeks, perhaps days. Then the real test would begin. Commander, we are detecting unusual activity in human space. Maltese reported her sensors flickering with surprise. Multiple telescopes are reorienting. Their early warning systems have identified the threat. It had taken them only 4 days. Zelther felt a surge of respect. These humans were more vigilant than he had anticipated. Humanity's response across Earth. The news spread like wildfire. President Sarah Chin of the United Earth Coalition stood before the global assembly, her face calm despite the catastrophic news she had to deliver. Distinguished delegates, I will not sugarcoat our situation. We face an extinction-level threat. Asteroid 2147 Omega will impact Earth in approximately 17 months unless we take immediate action. This is not a drill. This is not a political exercise. This is a test of everything we have built, everything we have learned, and everything we are capable of becoming. In the Krillian observation ship, Zeltir watched the human response unfold with growing fascination. Instead of panic and chaos, the humans displayed something remarkable. Within hours, old rivalries were set aside. The coalition of Asian states, the African Federation, the European Alliance, and the Americas Union all pledged their resources to a single unified effort. They call it Operation Survival. Maltese reported. Every space-capable nation is contributing. They are pulling their technology, their resources, their brightest minds. Zeltir observed as human engineers worked around the clock. They were designing spacecraft unlike anything they had built before. The plans were ambitious, perhaps impossibly so. They intended to intercept the asteroid, attach massive engines to its surface, and alter its trajectory enough to miss Earth. The mathematical probability of success is less than 40%. Zeltir calculated they would be better served preparing underground shelters and hoping their species can survive the impact winter, but the humans were not interested in merely surviving. They were determined to prevent the disaster entirely. The united effort. Dr. James Akinquo led the engineering team, designing the propulsion systems. Commander Liwi commanded the astronaut corps that would fly the dangerous mission. Dr. Yuki Tanaka solved the complex physics of attaching engines to a tumbling asteroid. These were not the names of politicians or celebrities. They were ordinary humans who rose to meet an extraordinary challenge. The Krillians watched as humanity transformed itself. Every resource was redirected toward the mission. Manufacturing facilities that once produced consumer goods now built spacecraft components. Scientists who had competed for grants and recognition now worked side by side, sharing every discovery instantly through their global networks. This level of cooperation is unprecedented in our observations. Maltese noted they are acting as a single organism, not a fragmented species. 6 massive spacecraft were constructed in orbit, each carrying revolutionary ion engines powered by fusion reactors. The technology was brand new, barely tested, and potentially unstable. The humans were taking enormous risks, but they had no choice. Launch day arrived. Zeltir watched as millions of humans gathered in public spaces across their planet, watching screened as the 6 ships departed Earth orbit. The vessels were named Hope, Defiance, Unity, Perseverance, Courage, and Tomorrow. Even the name spoke to something fundamental about human nature. The impossible mission, the journey to intercept the asteroid, took 3 months. During that time, the Krillian observers documented every aspect of the mission. The human crews worked with determination that bordered on obsession. When equipment failed, they improvised repairs. When calculations needed adjustment, they worked the problems again and again until they found solutions. Ship 3 Perseverance has experienced a critical malfunction in their primary fusion reactor. Maltese reported they are attempting repairs in deep space, far from any support. Zelthier watched as the human crew, led by engineer Marcus Silva, performed a repair that the Krillian computer systems calculated had only a 12% chance of success. Silva and his team worked in the vacuum of space for 18 hours straight, making modifications to equipment that was never designed to be serviced in flight. Against all probability, they succeeded. Perseverance continued toward the target. When the ships finally reached the asteroid, they faced their greatest challenge. The massive rock was tumbling chaotically, making it nearly impossible to land on its surface. Standard procedure would have been to wait for better conditions or abort the mission. The humans had neither time nor patience for standard procedure. Commander Leeway made the decision to attempt landing. Anyway, we didn't come this far to turn back now, she transmitted to Earth. We're going in. The landing sequence was controlled chaos. 2 ships failed to achieve stable attachment and had to retry multiple times. 1 ship, Courage, suffered damage during landing that knocked out half its systems, but within 48 hours all 6 vessels had successfully anchored to the asteroid surface. The moment of truth, the real work began. The crews had to drill deep into the asteroid surface, install the massive engines, and then coordinate a synchronized burn that would alter the asteroid's trajectory by just enough to miss Earth. The margin for error was almost zero. Zelter observed the progress with something approaching admiration. These humans worked in conditions that would have broken most species. The asteroid's irregular rotation created wild variations in gravity and temperature. Equipment failed constantly in the hostile environment, yet the humans adapted, improvised, and pressed forward. Dr. Tanaka's calculations were precise, but they required the engines to fire in perfect synchronization. Even a deviation of milliseconds could result in the asteroid breaking apart or the trajectory correction being insufficient. All ships report ready. Commander Leeway transmitted. Beginning. Final countdown. This is for Earth. This is for everyone who ever dared to dream we could touch the stars. The countdown reached 0. 6 fusion engines ignited simultaneously, their combined thrust beginning to push against billions of tons of rock and metal. The burn would need to continue for 72 hours to achieve the necessary course correction. On Earth, billions of humans held their collective breath. In the Krillian observation ship, Zelther and his crew watched in silence. The first hour passed successfully, then the second. Halfway through the burn, disaster struck. The engine on ship Tomorrow began to overheat, threatening to explode and destroy the entire mission. Captain Robert Kamani made a decision that left even the Krillian stunned. He manually vented the excess heat through the ship's life support system, exposing himself to lethal radiation levels. He kept the engine running, his hands steady on the controls even as his body began to fail. Continue the mission were his last transmitted words. Don't stop. Not for anything. The burn continued. Tomorrow's engine remained operational, guided by automated systems that Kamani had set before he died. The outcome, 72 hours later, the engine shut down as planned. The trajectory calculations were run and rerun. The asteroid would miss Earth by a margin of 42,000 km. Humanity had succeeded. The celebration on Earth was unlike anything the Krillians had ever witnessed. Strangers embraced in the streets, ancient enemies, wept together in relief and joy, and every human who saw the broadcast understood that they had witnessed something profound. They had faced extinction and refused to accept it. Commander Zellier transmitted an immediate report to Quell Prime. High Chancellor, the humans have succeeded. Not only did they overcome the asteroid threat, but they demonstrated capabilities that exceed our projections. By significant margins, they're faster than light. Research has accelerated dramatically during the crisis. I estimate they will achieve interstellar flight within 10 years, not 50. The response from High Chancellor Dre. This came swiftly. This changes everything. The Council must convene. We can no longer observe from the shadows. Prepare for first contact, Commander. The galaxy is about to meet humanity, and we need to ensure that meeting happens on the right terms. First contact, 3 years later, human scientists detected an anomaly approaching Earth. The readings were impossible. A ship that shouldn't exist, moving at speeds that defied known physics. The object was massive, crystalline and beautiful. President Chin, now in her final year of office, stood in the United Earth Coalition headquarters as the message came through, translated into perfect English. People of Earth, we are the Krillian Empire. We have observed your species for many centuries. We have tested you, challenged you, and watched you overcome every obstacle. We apologize for the deceptions, but we needed to understand what kind of species you truly are. Now we know you are survivors, you are innovators, you are worthy of joining the galactic community. We extend an invitation to meet, to learn from each other, and to forge a new future together. The revelation that the asteroid had been a test sparked fierce debate on Earth. Some demanded retribution, others called for caution, but ultimately President Chin made the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. We accept your invitation, she transmitted. But understand this, we are not seeking permission to exist among the stars. We have earned our place through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. We come as equals, not as supplicants. If you can accept us on those terms, then we have much to discuss. A new beginning. The first formal meeting between humans and Krillians took place aboard a neutral station constructed in the space between Mars and Jupiter. Commander Zellier represented the Krillian Empire. President Chin led the human delegation. We have studied over 6,000 species, Zellier said, his translation device rendering his thoughts into human language. None have impressed us quite like humanity. Your resilience is remarkable. Your innovation under pressure is unprecedented. Your refusal to surrender, even in the face of certain doom, is both terrifying and inspiring. Chin smiled. We have a saying on Earth, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Humanity has faced extinction more times than we can count. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, plagues, wars, and yes, even asteroids that mysteriously appear from nowhere. Each time we survive, each time we learn, each time we become more than we were before. The galaxy will be very different with humans in it, Zellier observed. We certainly hope so, Shin replied. We didn't survive everything just to be ordinary. The Krillian Empire and the United Earth Coalition signed the Accord of Mutual Recognition. That day, humanity was granted full access to the galactic community. Their sovereignty recognized, their territory respected. The Krillians shared technology and knowledge accelerating, human development by centuries, but the relationship was not one-sided. The humans brought something the Krillians had lost over their 12,000 cycles of dominance, the hunger to explore, the courage to risk everything, and the stubborn refusal to accept that anything was impossible. Within a generation, human ships traveled alongside Krillian vessels exploring the unknown regions of the galaxy. Human innovation began, solving problems that had stumped Krillian scientists for millennia, and human philosophy, art, and culture began to influence the wider galactic civilization in ways no one could have predicted. Commander Zeltier, now retired but still fascinated by humanity, watched from Carol Prime as human colonies spread across the stars. He had spent his entire career studying one species, and he had no regrets. They are exactly what the galaxy needed, he told Maltus during one of their regular conversations, a reminder that survival is not about being the strongest or the most advanced. It is about being unwilling to quit. It is about facing the impossible and trying anyway. The humans understand this in their very bones. Do you think they will change the galaxy? Maz asked. Zelther's sensors brightened with certainty. They already have. The question is not whether they will change the galaxy. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for what humanity will become. Epilogue: the unbreakable spirit. 50 years after first contact, the human colony on Proxima Century B celebrated its founding anniversary. Among the celebrations was a memorial to Captain Robert Kamani, who had given his life to save Earth from the asteroid. Ambassador Jennifer Jang, representing Earth at the Galactic Council, gave a speech that was broadcast across dozens of worlds and hundreds of species. Humanity did not reach the stars because we were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. We reached the stars because we refused to stay down. Every disaster, every catastrophe, every impossible challenge only taught us one lesson: we survive, we adapt, we overcome. This is not arrogance, this is not boasting. This is simply who we are. And now, standing here among the stars our ancestors once only dreamed of touching, we carry that lesson forward. Whatever the universe throws at us next, we will face it together with our new friends and allies, because that is what humans do. We survive, we thrive, and we never, ever give up. The message resonated across the galaxy. The unbreakable species had arrived, and nothing would ever be quite the same.